Good morning. Welcome to the Long Live Alternative Parties podcast. Free Press Media Press Inc., an alternative parties books publisher, sponsors this podcast. I'm Andrew Bouchard. Welcome to the Long Live Alternative Parties podcast. Today, friends, we have another exciting guest on our podcast, like we always do. He is running for a major office. His name is Bill Slantz, and he's running for governor of Missouri under the Libertarian Party. So welcome to the podcast, Bill.
Good afternoon, Andrew. Thank you for having me. I'm looking forward to this time we spend together.
Awesome. We're glad you're on. Could you please start by kindly giving us an introduction to yourself, a brief biographical sketch?
Sure. Well, I'm a father, a husband, and a grandfather. I live here in Missouri. Been here about 25 years. I'm actually an East Coaster originally. Born in New York and moved here about 25 years ago. But I've been a libertarian ever since I discovered politics.
Oh, wow.
Very early in life. Yeah, very early in life, I became disenchanted with the duopoly party of the Republicans and Democrats. I learned in my teen years that there wasn't very much of a difference between those two parties, and that basically it was a power grab for most of power and money grab was really the game, and the people really didn't matter.
Sure. Sounds good. So then you moved to Missouri and you got involved in the Libertarian Party in Missouri, right? Or was that before you got involved in New York?
Well, I was involved in the Libertarian Party in New York, but I got involved heavily here in Missouri. It's the first time I ran for office was here in Missouri, and I also became the chair of the Missouri Libertarian Party for a decade. And
oh, wow.
And just trying to do my best to grow the party and provide some leadership and
sure
and become a worker bee. Yeah, all the above. Yeah.
So what did you learn from running for office in the past in the Libertarian Party and also being chair for a while? What did you learn from those positions and experiences?
Yeah, well, that's a great question. I mean, running for office as a third-party candidate is not hard to do at all. You get two sides to do this. First of all, as a third-party candidate, and if you have a legitimate ballot access, you could do nothing except be a paper candidate, and you're serving the party very, very well. If you just get your name on the ballot and you can muster up some votes, that's going to ensure that that party, your Libertarian Party, is going to stay on the ballot for extended into future elections. If you lose ballot access, in order to get your party back on the ballot, you're going to have to go through a petition process, and the petitions can cost a tremendous amount of money, and they require thousands and thousands of signatures, and it's not easy process to do. So keeping the party on the ballot is very, very important, and the minimum requirement to do is become a paper candidate, which means you file as a candidate and you do nothing. I mean, your name is on the ballot at the election time, and people vote for you. 2 and 3 and 4% of the populace will vote for you, and that keeps you on the ballot. And the other side of that is if you become you can become as active as you want. You can campaign as active as you want, and I enjoy that part of it. What happens is that you get invited to town halls, and you get invited to VFWs and churches and different women's League of Voters and all kinds of different organizations, and they give you an opportunity to talk about being a libertarian. And I look at those opportunities as an opportunity to provoke. When words come out of my mouth when I'm in a room with a Democrat and a Republican and the audience is mostly Democrats and Republicans, we can make statements that will take people way out of their comfort level. Things that they thought of their whole life, this is the right way to do things, and all of a sudden they hear a third-party candidate or a libertarian talk about another way, and it's never dawned on them before. It's provoking them to just think outside the box.
Okay, sounds good.
So, yeah. So those are the two things. The more active you get, obviously, the better off it is. But you can't also be delusional. You can't be to the point where you're going to, at the election day, you can't build yourself up to be disappointed if you're not
Sure.
elected. Right now, you're serving another cause. You're serving a cause of waking people up to the monopoly of the duopoly parties, and making sure that people hear that there's not a difference between the two, not a difference at all.
Sounds good. So it sounds like you think it's important to manage your expectations. While you want to be optimistic and you want to be an agent of light, you also don't want to be unrealistic.
Yeah, for yourself. I mean, that's you're exactly right. I mean, and that, that's you can carry that message to even to a DNR. If you're in a heavily red area and you're a blue candidate, you got to manage your expectations as well. You're running for state rep, and your district happens to be 70% red and 30% blue. You have to manage your expectations. But you're there for another reason. If you're a minority, you're there for another reason, and that's where your focus is. But yeah, you don't want to become delusional. You're hopeful. you're always hopeful. You always get to a point where you think that people are fed up enough. I'm done with this two-party system, and then they look at an opportunity to roll over. And I think we're going to see that in the presidential election. If you look at some polls here, you got Robert Kennedy, who's polling at like 15 or 18% right now, and that's a huge number for a third-party candidate. Huge number. So, and that number is so big that it could be a spoiler.
Yeah. Yeah, good point. So what's your vision with the Libertarian Party for this race, and what are your platform planks in this race?
Well, so my two-word slogan in my campaign is limited government. And we know this, and we're talking on your podcast, and people who are listening understand this very well, that government does not do things very efficiently, and they're not doing things in the best interest. The government body itself is not doing things in the best interest of its people. Matter of fact, it's better instinctively or purposely or unconsciously, it's better for government to be bureaucratic and be inefficient, because the more inefficient, more bureaucratic they are, the bigger they can become, because the solution for solving problems is just let's throw more money at it, grow the government, and we haven't solved it with the size we are, so if we get a little bigger, we can solve the problem. And so they have no incentive to do things efficiently, like a corporation would do. If you're, an Apple, or if you're a Tesla, or if you're a, Elon Musk, and you want to get things done, and you want to make, profit in your business, you need to run it as efficiently as possible. Well, government is the opposite of that. They're looking to run things as inefficiently as possible. That way they can stay in power. That way they can stay in control. So, we have a pretty darn good legislators here in Missouri. We have a nice group of people who work pretty hard to keep things pretty conservative, and I kind of like that. But it's bloated. But it's super bloated, and they're constantly putting in legislation to take control over people's choices. You're going to do it our way because the majority rules, and the rest of you don't matter. So
interesting. Okay.
So in the state of Missouri, I can see some legitimate functions for government. So obviously we like to have nice roadways, and I would we have some horrible roadways here in Missouri, filled with potholes, and the whole country does. So down there in Texas is the same way. And I would like to see those fixed. And I pay a lot of money in taxes, and so do a lot of other people. And I wouldn't mind having a couple trucks going up and down the road and fixing the roadways on a regular basis. But I think it's a waste of money for the state to try to educate children. It's just a waste of money. The money is it's just a waste of money. You can't put these kids in these cookie cutter programs to just say, we're going to establish this, curriculum, and you follow along, and those on the fringes, those are, on the fringes of the mainstream, they're not getting educated at all, and so they're completely missing out. And then again, there's another solution there where your government says, well, we're not reaching all these children, so let's just, raise the taxes and put more money into education, and we'll find a way to get to these kids, and these kids are unreachable. So in this public forum, they're much better off if they were, educated, on a one-on-one basis or a three-on-one basis or something like that.
Okay. So for the schools, are you an advocate of parental choice, like they can choose homeschooling if they like, or do you also support vouchers, or do you support magnet schools? What do you support?
Yeah. All of it. I told you earlier, I like to provoke, and so, these things have to be done in baby steps. They can't be done all at once, just because people will push back if they become too frightened or scared or something like that. But the first and foremost, I don't think it's a requirement that children be educated. Obviously, I would like to see that. I would like to see that. I think it's best for a child to become educated, but it certainly shouldn't be a law that all kids must go to school. Okay.
No mandatory curriculum then. No compulsory attendance.
Yeah, no, exactly right. No compulsory attendance. And again, we were talking non-public schools. So, if a public school is taking attendance, then they can, slap people on the hands for not attending appropriately. But if there's no mandatory attendance, but it's important, that parents have resources to find ways to educate their children. Sure, it's important that children are educated. I just think it's inefficient to do it in a public school system.
Interesting.
And I don't think the kids get a very good education. I think that, the large majority of the kids come out of high school having learned very little for what they need to know going forward. There's a large majority that know a lot, and they go on to college and they end up with good careers. But there's a huge portion of the children's population that don't retain anything they learned in public school.
Okay, so do you think that college is not for everybody, so therefore the school system shouldn't put everyone in that direction?
Correct. Yeah, no, you look at the trades. We have to go to college to learn how to paint a house. Do I have to go to college to learn how to be an electrician? These are needed trades all over the place. Sure, maybe have to go to trade school to learn these things, or you become an apprentice of an electrician or a plumber. But I can see. I don't have any numbers statistically, but colleges for maybe 10% of the population.
Wow.
The rest is, look at how things run in this world. We build houses and we build companies, big businesses, and we have internet, and we have all kinds of ways that we function every day, and a lot of it has nothing to do with a college education. It just has to do with the ability to know how to do things.
Okay. Well, this is good stuff. It's a radical view of education that is helpful.
Yeah, and it's expensive. In the state of Missouri, little over the third of the budget of the state of Missouri goes to public education.
A third?
A third, yeah.
Wow,
or more.
That is a lot.
Or more. Yeah.
Wow.
You gotta. 1/3 goes into public education. Another third goes into Medicare, and Medicaid, Medicare, and or health care, which is put that way. And then you got a third that goes into the rest of it. Infrastructure and that type of thing. Pay those government employees. So
sure.
It gets pretty nasty. Yeah, it's expensive. And
it's
a huge part of the budget. And that doesn't mean that money is going to go away from the mom and dad. It's just not going to be paid through taxes. You're still going to have to pay to educate your children if you're not going to do it yourself.
Oh, sure. So how would you transition away from that? That's one thing I hear people asking libertarians about, because some of the ideas are ahead of our times, so it's not going to be something that we can implement right away necessarily, though some people might say we can. So how would you transition away from the system we have to in the right direction? Would you do it all at once, or would you make it gradual?
You can't do it all at once. You shake things up too much. People would be, like I said, would become uncomfortable with it, and they'd become fearful of what would be the outcome. And then you've got, but you would have to. I believe you have to roll it out a little bit slower. But the first thing that you can do right off the bat, we mentioned it already today, was that you can get rid of the mandates. You can just say that you're no longer required to go to school. And I think I think you would see things change pretty quickly. Right with that change. You would get a lot of kids that are not benefiting from school at all. They would stop going. And think about that. I mean, here's kids that are cutting class a lot of the time, or not showing up for class, or sitting in class and doing nothing. And what is the purpose of that? Is that daycare? Is that what we're doing here? Providing daycare, because these kids aren't learning anything. So you stop that, and then of course now you're faced with that problem with what are these kids going to do all day? Well, that's not the state's problem. That's not the state of Missouri's problem. That's the parents' problem.
Sure. Good point. You also mentioned, you said Medicare, right?
Healthcare. So
Healthcare.
Medicare is more of a federal thing. Medicaid is a state thing, but the state does provide has a tremendous part of its budget that goes towards healthcare, all different kinds. But Medicaid and elder care and got all kinds of things. State provided funds for, well, not in Missouri, but state provided funds for abortion and Planned Parenthood and that type of thing. So it's it's the state should stay out of medical assistance of any kind. There's no reason why the state should be involved in any type of medical services. I told you I'd be a little winded here, but think about this. I'm twice as old as anybody listening to this, but the rise in healthcare, the cost of healthcare has gotten so exponentially larger than it's been for the last couple of decades, and the reason for that is because the money is free. The money is flowing free from Medicare and from Medicaid and the insurance companies, and people who have to pay for their own health care don't have to worry about it. I go in and pay a $10 copay. I can afford the $10 copay, and I see the bill that comes through Blue Cross Blue Shield or through Medicaid, and if they got charged $15,000 for my $10 copay, then what do I care? The state covered it, or or my insurance company covered it, and then the medical. But if the medical industry didn't receive that type of taxpayer money, their costs would come way down. So, Right.
So you think more people would have private insurance if it was privatized because of more money it would be less incentive for higher stuff?
Well, Andrew, if you really want to go to utopia here, you would eliminate insurance and government-assisted medical care altogether. It would dramatically lower the cost. If you were a doctor in your hometown and you were going to require your patient to pay out of pocket for whatever care they needed, you would only be able to charge them what they can afford to pay. You can't, you wouldn't be able to charge them these astronomical numbers. So I don't have dental insurance, and I go to the dentist twice a year, and I pay cash out of pocket for that. And my dentist charged me a very reasonable price. It's not cheap, but it's a reasonable price. And I'm not saying that everybody can afford to do that, but there are ways to help manage that. But insurance and taxpayer money has bloated the healthcare industry to a place that's it's obscene how much cash goes through that industry. I have a friend of mine who spent 6 weeks in the hospital after a massive heart attack, and his medical bill was $2 million for
$2 million
to the hospital.
Oh
$2
no!
million. Yeah, he didn't have to pay a nickel, but that's what the bill was.
Okay, good,
yeah,
good.
for a 6 week stay in a hospital. Which is a long time to be in a hospital. And you got a lot of buttons going, and you got a lot of machines going, you got a lot of expertise. But $2 million for 6 weeks, I don't know, that's a lot of money.
Yeah, that sounds high. So there would be much less of that if we privatized Missouri privatized
medical care. Yeah, medical care. We'll call it privatized medical care. Now, if you decided that you want to, take health insurance, that's your option. You can obviously hire Blue Cross and Blue Shield or an insurance company to give them a premium the same way you do on your house and your car. You could give them a premium and they pay for your medical insurance. But sure, that's your option. That's free market. If I want to retain an insurance company to help me with my medical bills, I can do it. I can also, not have collision insurance on my car. If I decided, if the state requires you to have insurance in your car if you hurt somebody else's property or being, but if I wreck my car, that's my risk. If I have to repair it or replace it, that's also my burden. I can hire an insurance company to cover those expenses for me, and that's just more out of pocket for me. Or I can just say take responsibility for my car, and if it's ruined by my own doing, then I'm going to be responsible for replacing it.
Okay.
That's the same way. So that's the same way I look at it in medical. If you decide you want to pay for your medical costs out of pocket, then you have that right. And if you decide that you want to hire an insurance company to help you with that, if something catastrophic were to happen to you, that you have that option. But that's my position on that. But the state should not be involved. The state of Missouri should not be involved in that at all.
Okay. Okay. So I trust also with education, you would gradually phase it out.
Public education, yeah. You don't want the state involved in education. Again, going back to the beginning of the conversation, they're not doing it very efficiently. They're not getting not getting enough kids educated, and the priorities are way out of whack. Their curriculum is out of whack, and it's just.
No, I mean for healthcare. So you'd also phase healthcare out gradually, then too. I take it, right?
State, state taxpayer-funded healthcare. Yeah, you have to phase that out altogether. Yep.
Okay. So how are you getting your message out in this campaign?
Well, I get on podcasts like yours.
Yeah,
I appreciate that. I'm early on, so we filed in February. It's now May, and like I said, I don't have a primary challenge, but we are working hard to put a synchronized message together. I've hired some web developers and some other people that are going to help me clean up my appearance, and then we're going to go after the libertarians here in Missouri to help promote that. There's about 4,000 people in the state of Missouri that I have access to through email.
Wow.
And once we're cleaned up, I'm going to lean on them to get the message out through their social media, through their Facebook and Instagrams, and in any way they can do it.
Okay, sounds good.
Yeah. And I'll attend as many of the town halls and as many of the gatherings that people have for, they have candidates on the panel that, want to debate one another. And I'll attend as many of those as I possibly can.
Okay. So some of our guests, they don't like to talk about their opponents, and some of our guests do like to talk about their opponents. So would you be comfortable addressing your opponents, what they're like?
Well, I'm not uncomfortable talking about my opponent. I'm not like talking negative about anybody.
Okay.
So in all in any circumstance of my life, I don't really like talking negatively about a person. There's no reason to do that.
Okay, fair enough.
But I can talk about the party. I can talk about the position of a Democrat Party, or I can talk about the position of a Republican Party, and the flaws that they have. So it doesn't matter who is my Republican opponent. I don't care who it is. I don't really care who the Democrat opponent is. What I care about is, they're going to toe the part of the line. So if you become the Republican governor of Missouri, you're not going to go out on your own and just do things from your own little head. You're going to do things the party recommends for you to do, and you might have some independence in you, but the bottom line is if you don't toe the party line, they're going to kick you out the next election. So.
Okay. So is Missouri a red state or a blue state?
Very red. We have 3 blue cities. St. Louis is very blue, and Kansas City is very blue, and Columbia, Missouri is a college town in the middle of town, and middle of the state, and they're pretty blue. And then we have downstate. There's a little community called Springfield, also a college town, and they're a little blue. But the rest of the state is very red and dominantly so. So it's even though those major cities are blue, they do not influence any of our elections. It stays red, very red. Not even pink. It's just red.
Okay. Interesting. So because
you're very similar to Texas. Very similar to Texas. You're
okay.
It's very similar to Texas. You
Good point.
You have Austin and Dallas and those communities that want people to be more blue, but the rest of the state says no. They say stay red.
Good analogy. You're right. That's what Texas is like. Austin, where I live, is a very progressive area, yet Texas all over has a reputation for being very, very red and very conservative.
Right.
So it sounds like you don't have to worry about ballot access. Is that because the party has gained it in the last elections, so you don't have to worry about it right now? Oh, good.
Yeah, no, we don't have to worry about it right now. We're good for the next 6 years, I think it is. But it's a sliding scale, so you don't want to lose that position. So if things go correctly and everything is all the stars are aligned, I should be able to bring in about no less than 3% of the vote. And if I'm lucky and do a good campaign, I could get 5 to 6% of the vote. And that's massive. 6% would be a massive win for the Libertarian Party. 1%, 1.5%, 1.5% I think is minimum to state ballot access. But if you fell below that, and I'm not the only candidate obviously running, so it's an accumulation of all the votes for all the Libertarian candidates, not just the governor.
Okay,
right.
So that's how they calculate it.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay.
What percentage you got statewide? Yeah.
As a party as a whole.
Correct.
Okay. I'm glad you don't have to go through that obstacle of getting ballot access.
No, that'd be a shame. And it's funny you mentioned it because the 2 other parties, the Constitution Party and they lost their ballot access last year, and they're not on the ballot this year as a party.
No, bummer.
It is a bummer. So.
Yeah, they bring something to the table, so that's unfortunate. So I trust they can still get their message out with the extra obstacle.
Yeah, well then, again, and that part of the Constitution Party is working pretty hard to figure out a way to get back on the ballot. And I think in some communities they actually are, but and I think they've gathered quite a few petitions, and so I think in the next election cycle we'll see them back on the ballot. But that was a shame that they lost their position there. Yeah.
Yes, that's good to hear that it might be better in the future, and I also appreciate your alternative party solidarity. Anything
that's not a DNR. We can get people to think outside the mainstream, just to realize that there is a solution, that they don't have to, fall in lockstep behind it, for the status quo. They can just, hey, you know what? Just because it's been going this way forever doesn't mean it has to stay that way. We can change it up. And so it doesn't matter what third party it is. I'd like to see him change it up. It's really important, Andrew, that people understand, that you can't continue to rely on the government to solve your problems. You've got to take ownership of things for yourself, and it's not right for me to be told I must do something a certain way because half of the state said I had to. The other half says no. So now I'm being forced into doing things in a way, complying to things in a way that I don't agree with because the majority won. And, that's a government problem. That's a bloated government problem. If government was in charge of less, then those things wouldn't be a problem. I get a gasp out of the audience one time. I said, what really is the purpose of a driver's license? Why do we need a driver's? Has anybody taken a driver's test a second time from the time they were in high school? Why do we have a driver's license? Why can't we do without a driver's license? What is the purpose of it? The form ID, we can get an ID that works for you, so that you can go to the bank and cash a check. But do I need a driver's license? What purpose does it serve? And why does the state require you to have a driver's license? And I think mostly it's just so they can track you. I don't mean track you in a big brother way, but they want to know, how many traffic tickets have you had and how many times have you broken the law, and they can track you that way. I think the driver's license is a little, I don't see any need for a driver's license.
Oh my.
Yeah.
Oh my.
Yeah. Do you know anyone, the worst driver in the world? Do you know anyone who wouldn't pass a driver's test? Really.
I didn't pass it my first time.
Well, yeah, but you drive, but you now drive, right? So.
Oh no, but that has nothing to do with my.
I failed mine the first time too. I did.
Oh, okay.
The first time.
Yeah, but I passed it eventually.
But I was 16 years old and whatever, and so I just don't see it as a state requirement. I just don't see it as
Okay.
It's one of those things. So.
Okay, so you disagree with Gary Johnson then on that?
Well, I think Gary Johnson was more of, he was thinking more along the lines of identification. We wanted to, be able to prove whether or not you were a U.S. citizen, prove whether or not you were a state citizen, so that you could vote. I don't disagree with that. I don't think that if you're a non-citizen, you have any right to vote at all. You have no say if you're a non-citizen. I'm paying the tax dollars. I'm the one who is supporting the whole system, and so I have a vote. You're not contributing anything to the system, tax dollar wise, and so no, you don't have any vote.
Okay. So you would want to find some alternative to the driver's license as a standard way of getting people ID.
Sure, and it exists already. In the state of New York, you've got in Manhattan, you've got 7 million people that none of them drive a car, and so they just get a state issued ID. They don't have a driver's license.
Sure.
Yeah,
sure. And I use my passport too, so people can use different things.
Yeah, I have a passport card, and I use that most of the time.
So it sounds like that's good. And it's interesting. I heard that issue talked about here or there, especially Gary Johnson, because he got booed at one libertarian convention for saying he thought there was a driver's license. So it's interesting to hear you give the rationale for that and why people want it and why there's alternatives to it. So that's interesting.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I find it ridiculous. I think you should. I think you should be a good, safe driver. I don't think you should take other people's lives in your hands when you're driving your vehicle. But people with driver's licenses do it every day. So what benefit is there from the license itself? I don't get it.
Interesting. Interesting. And oftentimes there are people who have several DUIs and they still somehow are allowed on the road. So your point.
Yeah, they still drive illegally. They drive without a license. So, but I'm not. So that's not a campaign issue for me. I'm not going to go to town halls here in Missouri and say, I want to do away with driver's licenses. I threw that out there to be provocative, just to kind of show, how we've kind of fallen into this compliance. We've become so used to the state, mandating what we do, and we don't question it. We never think, why do I do that? I don't. So that's kind of why I go out with a driver's license. It's just to provoke you. It's just to say, you never even thought about not having a driver's license. So, and then you start thinking about, why do I need one? It's because the state told you needed one. Well, what authority do they have? So, anyway.
That's a good way to put it. So it doesn't matter so much why a person wants a driver's license or why not. you want to start the conversation about why the government is having us control so many different things, so many aspects of our lives.
Correct. And you know, not just why the government wants to control it. We talked about that. That keeps them bloated. But why you become dependent on it. You know, a lot of people, you know, you've heard the term the nanny state.
Yes.
A lot of people have become dependent on government because they say, well, I don't have to worry about that. The government will take care of me. Well, you know, you're a sole individual, you know, in this space. And you have a responsibility to take care of yourself, make decisions for yourself. So if you're just going to go through life and just let other people take care of you, you know, that's just pathetic. So.
Sure.
Yeah. I should not be relying on the state to take care of me. I need to take care of myself. Now, if I can't take care of myself, if I'm not capable, then there needs to be resources. Doesn't have to be tax dollar resources, but there should be resources to help those individuals that can't take care of themselves. And you know, there's plenty of organizations that do that. They have volunteer organizations. They have organizations that take all kinds of donations to help, you know, fund resources to feed people and care for people. And you don't need the state dollars to do that.
Okay. So do you think a lot of people are naive about government aid, that they think it's a benign thing, yet the government is using it to control people?
Not so much to control people. You know, I think people have just become so compliant. They've become so used to it. They've never kind of, you know, wondered, you know, what would happen if the government stopped doing this. They just automatically assume it's there. And it doesn't, they don't think about it at all that way. They just accept it. I don't really see it as a control thing. The control part of it is, again, to the beginning of the conversation, the bigger that it is, the more they can justify their existence. So if we are doing this for you, you can't do without us. And then we can grow and become bigger. And then, you know, keep in mind that the large majority of government are not elected officials. They're government employees. So the elected officials is a small, tiny portion of government.
True.
And, you know, I think in the state of Missouri, what do we got? You know, on a state level, we have probably less than 200, maybe a little over 200, let's go 300 government elected officials at the, you know, in the House and in that body, and then throughout all the, you know, all the city councils, and you should have quite a bit more than that. But let's just say it's probably a couple thousand, maybe even be generous and go closer to 10,000 elected officials. When you consider the judges and you consider all the state, you know, all the community school boards and all that kind of stuff. But there's tens of thousands of government employees, hundreds of thousands of government employees. And they all work for an office that's run by an elected official. And it's not in their interest to do things efficiently, because if they do things too efficiently, then they're going to have to let a couple of those employees go. So, because they're not needed. And then, that's not good.
Sure.
Right, so, yeah.
Okay. So, Bill, how can our audience support you in your campaign?
Well, the best thing you can do is to get into your social media. It'd be fantastic if anybody wanted to support me. And my website is kind of hokey dokey right now, but I'm currently working on it. I have a web designer who's just given me a proof. And probably within the next 10 days, that's going to be pretty spectacular. And that's BillSlantz.com. Right now, that really is kind of hokey. And then all my social media is just at Bill Slantz. That's BillSlantz. And that's Facebook and X, those types of social medias. And anything they want to do to help out would be great. But mostly, the best they could do is just help spread the word. Hey, this guy's running for governor. He's got some wacky ideas, but we like it. And we'd like you to think about him. And that would be the best thing you could do.
All right. Sounds good. I can include your website in our show notes.
Please. Yeah. And again, anybody goes to it, I don't know when the show will air, but any time that anybody goes to it, after today or tomorrow, it's going to look pretty hokey. So, it's just a basic little black and white website that's in a kind of a place mark. But we've hired a professional designer that's going to have that populated probably within the next 10 days. And then we'll promote it pretty heavily then. Yeah.
Sure. That's good. That's good. Bill, we thank you for coming on the podcast today and talking about your campaign.
Thank you, Andrew, for having me. It was a pleasure. And I'm again sorry I got so winded, but I get passionate about these things sometimes.
It's okay. That's what we're here for. We're here to hear you talk about your interesting ideas.
Thanks, Andrew. Okay.
All right, we wish you all the best in your campaign and also everything else you do in your personal and professional life.
Thank you. You too.
All right. Bye now.
Yeah, bye.